What's wrong with the
How
telephone?
you doing, Chad?
What's wrong with that?
How was the flow of the telephone? Was it
Too
moving?
fast.
Too fast.
Yeah, take it
So-
back to slow.
Okay, so we can slow it down.
Slow it
And
down.
we can just put the prompter underneath the camera. That way she's looking at the camera.
Alright, so we're going to 2 now. So you're not using the 2.
Okay, so good. Okay.
Should I look at Ron?
So what do they
Yes.
see on commercial when right now, what are they looking at?
Right now, your graphic, which is what we need to hurry and get back.
Okay.
We'll just go, this is a.
What's up with that screen behind his head? Behind you is a half screen.
Oh, no, that's not.
Okay. Supposed to be like that.
No, stop. Keep right there, bro. Keep right there. And go to the top of it. Right? And then this one. There you go. You like it? Alright.
The property needs to come back around and it's not straight. Like turn it, it's like turn
Turn
it like
towards you.
yeah. There you go. And what, do you know, can we adjust it or just gotta pick it up from where it's at?
No, I got time to check this.
Yeah.
Come down, come down.
You have any tissue around here?
Get ready to
Yeah,
go.
I'm gonna check it.
This is such an experience. I can't wait to,
Okay.
yeah, come on down, come down some more. Yeah, plenty. Come down.
More.
Gail, is that close out? Let me see what that's like. Come up some.
Alright, you gonna start here,
Okay.
when we come back, you gonna start on this
Start on
camera.
your side, okay.
And
Come down.
and when I point, I'm letting you know that.
To bring my eyes back?
Yeah, to bring.
Okay, I didn't
That
know.
you on this camera right here.
Yeah, listen, I think.
Okay,
When you're talking, just talk to her.
okay,
You guys talk to each other,
sure.
okay?
Okay, so
Is she close on the camera?
Too well,
Yeah.
good. That's Gail, okay, come down.
And then,
Come down, we close, we close. Right there where it says, go back up, as, go up, as, right there,
Right.
as a mental health, yeah, it's not starting yet, I'm going ad lib, after I run out of her time, then it'll go right there, as a mental
just,
health.
so just giving you a points in the camera mode. Just look at me. Once you're looking at it over top.
Okay, okay.
Alright, ready?
Yep, and
Wait,
then,
wait a minute.
okay, hold on one second.
You have a bag, can I throw this in the trunk?
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Alright, wait a minute. Countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, welcome, welcome back, Palms Up. I tell you, this is such an experience. I'm over here with cue cards and camera crew and everything else. God is so good. Guys, join me in welcoming our first guest to the platform, Miss Monique Michelle Smith. Welcome, Michelle. Monique, how are you today? As you can tell, I'm on all the nerves and I'm on this side of the equation. Thank you so much for joining us in the new year. Guys, for those of you that do not know, Monique Michelle Smith is a 20-plus year fire EMT representative for the district, and I'm going to let her tell us a little bit about her work in the city. Today's show is covering COVID-19 and the understanding of the getting the vaccinations done, and they hit a snag. And one of the first groups that were getting this vaccination are our front runners, our first responders, I should say, our frontline folk. And we know all too often that frontline are not many of our families are the ones that are, or community family the ones that are in these jobs. And so I thought it would be great to invite Miss Monique Michelle Smith onto the platform. Miss Smith is also very active in her philanthropic work, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Welcome, Monique, again, and talk to us a little bit about, with all of this pandemic going on, first and foremost, thank you so very much for taking time out to stop by the platform. But as a DC Fire EMT, talk to us a little bit about how did you become a DC Fire EMT? Why did you choose it, and what has the experience been like? Just talk to us a little bit, would you?
Sure. So I've been on an apartment for it'll be 23 years coming this
That's
April.
awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So I had initially gotten started, I used to be a pre-K teacher
Okay, okay,
at a private school called Bridges Academy.
okay.
And I had a family member who said, well, would you like to become an EMT? And I said, well, what is an
Just
EMT?
like that, okay.
And she said, come on, you can work for the department, you can still teach, and you can work for DC Fire and EMS. And I said, well, I don't know. So she was an instructor at Wesleyan Career Institute, and I took a course. Then it was $500. Now the course is almost $2,000.
23 years ago.
Exactly. So it was a 6 weeks training course. Learned everything about first aid, CPR, how to correct life-threatening emergencies, and it was an awesome course. And then I got signed up with DC Fire and EMS, and eventually my path went into healthcare and emergency services.
So you mean do you draw blood? Do you do heartbeats? You're in there. You're like really sleeves rolled up. You're in there. So are you front line during this pandemic?
So during the pandemic, as an essential employee, we are pretty much the front liners.
Okay.
We handle life-threatening emergencies, medical problems, and trauma-related incidents. So whenever you call 911, all the calls go to MPD first, and then MPD dispatch will determine who needs to go to that response, that incident.
Talk to us a little bit. I appreciate that. What are you guys seeing in terms of the pandemic that you weren't seeing before the pandemic? Can you kind of just walk us through a day in the life?
So what I can recall is that when it initially got started, Washington, D.C. had low numbers, you know, and Mayor Muriel Bowser's was ensuring that things in Washington, D.C. with her constituents was safe, you know. So she initially took action to try to quarantine everyone in Washington, D.C. Because, again, this is possible an airborne transmission. You can't see a common cold coming, but this coronavirus is invisible. You can't see it. So with Washington, D.C., our top symptoms that we look for is shortness of breath, a fever, and a cough. We go on that.
A shortness of breath,
Shortness of
fever,
fever,
and a cough.
And a cough.
Okay.
Now, there are 14 other symptoms.
Okay.
You know, headache, fatigue, loss of appetite, sore throat, body aches, and you know, just almost like flu-like symptoms. But the illness progresses and it gets worse.
Well, let me talk to you about that, because they talk about it being what, 2 more strands, stronger or more aggressive.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you guys now? Are you more busy running on calls?
I watched the numbers, and suddenly the numbers have spiked. But we can say that when the mayor is putting out these precautionary measures to stay home, she means it.
Yeah.
Because it's serious.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know who has it.
Right.
You don't know who you were around.
Right.
Who had it.
Right.
And the symptoms are so mild that you just ignore it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I want to talk about that. I want to stay right in that space. I want you guys to know that talking about the surge, Statistically, DC is averaging 290 new cases a day over the course of a 7-day period, and that's been the case for the last 2 weeks. That's the most that we've seen in the city since the pandemic. The mayor says that the hospitals are strained with the coronavirus patients, and public health experts, I should say, says that we could be headed for a wave, or alarming is the word that they're using, alarming wave of coronavirus infections in the next few weeks.
Exactly. So what's happening is that crowds, being around large crowds are becoming super spreaders. So initially, we were told 10 people.
Yeah.
And then the numbers declined. Now it's 4 people. Then the numbers declined again, 2 people. Now you have 6 feet away. You know, wear the mask. And when she mentioned holidays, stay at home, people love to touch, hug one another.
Well, let's talk about that.
Sit next to
What
one
about our
another.
babies? When you talk about people loving to hug and touch, and the idea of being able to be familiar and to have that human love and a transfer of emotion, what are you guys seeing on the front line as front, in terms of our children in this pandemic?
Children are pretty much saddened about the situation. They're used to contact with their friends, with, getting close, hugging one another, roughhousing. And it's fine because, they're friends and they care about one another, but that's put a pause on everything.
Yeah, and my concern, I want to make sure, because I want to make sure we don't lose too much time here, but you do so much work outside of your regular work. You are also an MI Mother's Keeper advocate and board member, and so you've been very instrumental in the background and the forefront with our MI Mother's Keeper program. I hope that my production is showing some of your wonderful photos and the work that you've done. I know that you've been very instrumental in making sure that we're able to do the assessments, because the children, one of the things about our program is meeting them where they are. And you've been very successful at helping us to be able to help these children and these families do better in their reading and their goals for being able to find work. How has it been for you in the front lines of the MI Mother's Keeper and the other work that you're doing in the community from a volunteer standpoint?
I think that I miss doing the work, what I can say, because I started out as an early childhood educator, and with my Mother's Keeper, we had a program called Reading to Riches, whereas we would set up a summer program and go over reading skills with children, and I truly miss that. So now we have to learn how to do teaching another way. So now people are Zooming, but I can say that some children are struggling with it.
Yeah.
They really need that one-on-one personal TLC.
And I'm so glad you used those words. Guys, in my Mother's Keeper, our eye on the community, our beautiful divas, our advocates. Monique was out over on New Year's Day. She came and told us a wonderful story about how she was out helping a community family who had called in on the ambulance, and in doing so, she saw that it looked like the family wasn't going to have Christmas. They're cueing me to wrap up, but I just want you guys to know that this beautiful-hearted fire and EMT representative, 23 years in the game, is not too overworked. She knew enough to get those babies a Christmas. She came in and told us that they needed Christmas, and we made it happen. Thank you, Monique, for joining us. Would you stick around with us, please?
Sure.
We want to bring in our co-host and talk a little bit more about this vaccination process.
Sure.
Thank you so much, and God bless you, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you so much.
Clear. Okay. All right, Ms. Gail, we ready for you?
How you doing? You good?
Do I have to?
Yeah, you're gonna bring me back.
No, Gail is on with.
Yeah.
Gail.
Great job.
When you're wrapping up, Just say, was it a quick
I
break?
don't even know I'm wrapping up. That's the thing. I'm so getting through it. I'm like, are we stopping right now? Do I have another break from here? Maybe I need to know my break
Yes,
for this.
so we have a break out here. Yes,
After Gail, we have a break? Okay.
And then like 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay. Then I'll say something. 6.
I heard that you something about that.
Yes, so let's take a look at some of the pictures.
You said,
Okay.
No, wait.
So they waiting on your cue.
I want to talk about
Okay.
I'm in
Yeah, I'm
Kansas City.
struggling.
We get it.
I'm gonna be looking at,
You look at
Rhonda.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is teleprompter, right? And you slowed it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Alright. No, what I was talking about was the number 5, the sound coming off of it. Yeah.
Confirm this shot on camera 7 when we get a shot.
Welcome.
You're doing wonderful.
You see all these comments?
I know, but you handling it.
Because I talk so much. You know, it's just like,
You know this in your
She
sleep.
coming back to camera 5.
Ron, you gotta talk to me. Oh, I'm sorry, we're live on Facebook. Hello, Facebook. It's your girl. Thanks for supporting me. You know, I'm out here getting this word out in the community. So thank you so much, guys. If the feed isn't clear, you can always go to YouBroadcast Live or www.healthydcandme.org. Healthydcandme.org and get the link so that you can see it clear. And pass the word on. We're going to be doing this every week, so I'm going to get better. Palms up.
Going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
As a mental health advocate, I'm most concerned with improving and with extending the quality of life for members in the community. My guest here, Ms. Gail Event with Total Family Care Coalition, sorry about that, is a wonderful advocate for mental health in the community. Now more than ever, we've got to talk DMV. Mental health matters, you know. Palms up. If you didn't know, now you do. Guys, please join me in welcoming my dear guest here, Ms. Gail Avon from the DC area. Her coalition, Total Family Care Coalition, is frontline helping out with the mental health in our city. And when we talk about COVID-19 and we talk about the actual vaccinations process and what it's going to take to keep our city healthy and whole, there's no way that Emma Mother's Keeper would start this conversation without our wonderful colleague and our soldier in the field, Ms. Gail Avon, who is also a Healthy DCNE Coalition member core organization, which means she's in it to win it. She wants to make sure that she does everything to help our DC family. Hey Gail, I hope I did you justice. Welcome and thank you so much for stopping by the Palms Up set. How are you?
I'm fine, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you know I was coming for you. Palms Up, I tell you, the mental health in this city, boy, we don't have enough time on our show. But I sure would love for you to help us understand the beautiful work that you guys are doing in the community. And then how is this pandemic for your organization? Because many of the organizations, myself included and my Mother's Keeper, we've been challenged to try to keep up with keeping in touch with our families. How are you doing? Gail's organization, if I hadn't already mentioned it, works with the mental health. And why don't we start there? Why don't you help us understand what you guys do, why you started doing it, and how you so beautifully stay at it?
Well, thank you, Rhonda. It's always good to come to your company to help you and, you know, palms up for mental health.
That's right, that's right.
And so, just like every cause, I had a need. And that was because I have a son that has a mental health issue. And, you know, I came up against systems and got pushed back. And so, you know, instead of being afraid of going away, I learned how to fight the system.
That's right.
And become part of the system.
That's right. That's right.
And they say you can't join them.
You
can't beat them, join them.
That's right. That's right. I told y'all we got some soldiers that come through here. I so appreciate that. And what kinds of problems would you share with us that you guys were running into? Because I'd like for the families out there to be able to open up and know that this is the platform that they can come to be able to keep it 100 and to identify with the real issues out there.
Yes, you know, like you said, a lot of providers are closing the doors when the mayor said we had to do the social distancing and they closed the business. We couldn't. We couldn't because that day that she announced closing of the providers, the businesses, we started getting phone calls from parents. They were traumatized.
That's right.
They were, one young mother called me and she had a 10-month-old child and she was saying she wanted to commit suicide. And here's the hurting thing. She wanted to also kill her son because she wasn't sure who would be able to take care of him.
Isn't it something?
It is.
And we gotta keep talking about it and putting shining the light on this, because what must be going through a mother's mind to get to the point that that's the decision that they want to make?
It's troubling, and no one should feel like they're alone.
Not one.
And that's what we find when we do our work.
Mhm.
Most of the people feel like they're alone. I need it myself. But I come to find out when I talk to other parents, it was other parents just like me.
Absolutely. And that's why I keep pressing the issue. I'm so proud and thankful too that we are on this journey together, because there's power in numbers.
Yes.
And in our community, culturally, when we don't understand something, we push away from it, or we start to be indifferent about it, and we start to isolate ourselves away from it. And the truth of the matter is, when we came out to raise the awareness, we were looking for our soldiers that we could help spread this message, because in our community, don't come weak.
Exactly.
Because you know how we are. Talk to me a little bit about what you guys are seeing. I know you talked about the mom, but what types of programs are you able to help with or offer? And is there anything that we can call attention to that your agency is working with that the viewing audience out there should understand?
Sure, as a nonprofit, we
Always got something to it.
And when we first began before the pandemic, we did our services in the home. We had corporate services because we want to be different from other organizations who said, come in my office at 2 o'clock. No, we was at your home at 2 o'clock.
That's right.
So when COVID came, we had to transfer from doing in-person to virtual to doing limited in-person. There was a big need for food insecurity. So I reached out to organization. We are now designated as an emergency food distribution center because there is a big need for food.
It is.
People are going hungry.
Yes, they are, and the pride factor comes in, and that's why we do this show, because we want folks to know we all in this together.
Yes.
I'm a Ward A baby for life. We ain't never gonna be too proud to let folks know what it is, especially when we surviving. And so that's why we do this show. Talk to us a little bit. How do we get in touch with you with this wonderful food resource that you have?
Well, our office number is 249-1000.
Okay.
And the email is Total Family Care Coalition @gmail. And we'll be more than welcome to help you get the food, even at limited delivery.
Awesome.
Yes.
And so, guys, again, food delivery, limited time, you gotta jump on it. This is Gail Advent from Total Family Care Coalition. How's that for a tongue twister? And I also want you to know that you can get in touch with Gail on our healthydcandme.org website, because as I mentioned, she's one of our core member organizations. Guys, it is real out there in the streets, and we need you to understand that now more than ever, your mental health matters, and we need you to speak out. We want you to know that there are wonderful organizations out there like Gail. Hey Gail, we're going to be talking about and talking to our co-hosts and bringing them into the platform shortly. Would you stay with us and talk to us a little bit on the other side about the vaccinations and things of that nature? Awesome. Is there any one message concerning mental health that you can share with our families before we wrap up this segment?
We don't want anyone to suffer in silence. Reach out for help. You need help, ask for it. And we there to make sure you get it. We there to make sure nobody is going to shame or blame you. We boots on the ground.
That's right, boots on the ground. You heard it here. Palms up. We out here trying to save some lives, and I brought some soldiers with me. This is Miss Gail Advent with Total Care Family Coalition. And by the time I finish, I'm gonna be renamed it. But she's a wonderful, wonderful resource in the community, and I hope you guys will look her up. And we're looking forward to talking to her a little bit more as we come back to you guys on the other side to bring our co-hosts into this platform. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, my wonderful viewing audience. We're gonna get this together. Palms up. We're humble because we're saving lives.
Click.
Chat.
You run it. So now you bring your chat and monkey into the set. Monique's coming in here. We all going to the co-host now.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So do you need to get up?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
So we just gonna have Chop in, so you and Chop will be on the same set for the call.
Thank
But where is Gail? Gail and her husband, we're all on the same set.
Okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, everybody's talking. That's why I'm asking them to stay. I haven't asked them about their
Okay.
vaccinations yet.
All right, grab these 2 chairs.
Which mic is he?
Put them right in the back. All right. Chapter's on 2. Jay, bring it up. We need 2. Whatchamacallit?
That prompted us. We gotta go just drive around. Getting my little white cards any day over there.
I can tell you about this.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's not. You're not doing as bad as you think.
Okay. Because you know, I'm having
Oh
to
no,
figure my
because
mind.
I've seen people completely tear that up. So you blame that. You got that. You fix that.
Thank you. That's already on. I just meet you. Unmute you when you're ready.
Is your light on?
Yeah, everything's on. Mic and light.
Good. All right.
Right, is mine propped back up?
Like this.
Yeah, that's the sort of spirit.
That's the sort of.
Rhonda, Rhonda, talk to your Zoom people. We're doing the test.
Hello, Ann, can you hear me? Hey, Ann, can you hear me? Ann? Ann?
Is Ken and
Kenneth?
Perry?
Perry? They can't hear me. They can't hear me. Oh, there she is. Hey, Ann.
There's Ken.
Hi. Hello, Kenneth.
There's Ken.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Ann?
No.
Kenneth? Listen, she just wrapped up. You uncut, but I'm real talk.
Okay, try that one, Rhonda.
Hey, Ann? Kenneth?
And squeeze it back out there also.
Can you guys hear us?
Ken?
Ann? Kenneth?
They didn't hear each other, right?
Ann was just revved up. They was having a good time.
Hey, guys.
Yeah. Try talking to him.
Hello.
Hey,
Ann?
can you guys hear us?
If not, let's go to a mic and just get them on the phone. I mean, do something, you know, let's not lose the time.
Hey.
Hello, Facebook. Thanks so much for hanging in there with us. As you can see, behind the scenes is not as glamorous as all the stuff when it's put together. I'm your girl and my mother's keeper. We're so excited to be bringing this wonderful content to the forefront during a pandemic, so all the vanity is out the window. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be coming weekly, and we're going to be working in King Style. We're trying to get our folks in through the Zoom. We've got a wonderful second half scheduled for you. So if you'll stay patient, we're gonna keep this rolling. Guys, talk to me a little bit while we're waiting for them to go, since our Facebook Live is going. We might as well go ahead and keep talking. How are we guys feeling about all this unrest in our city as it relates to this Capitol and going on shutdown in terms of the city tomorrow?
Well, it's necessary.
What's wrong with the
Unfortunately,
orange?
that
What you need?
riot has made everyone on edge. And
Gotcha.
unfortunately, you have to keep the constituents safe
Yeah.
Oh,
by
gotcha.
all means.
Yeah. So impeachment, are we there?
I don't know where it is.
You know, I am worried about impeachment because it was already statements saying on how they were going to harm our upcoming leader.
Mm-hmm.
I think people believe that he has to be punished for the situation. Me personally, let him go.
Mm-hmm.
If you can keep the president safe and the vice president safe, and after that attack, they cannot settle down.
Mm-hmm.
Take them serious.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because you want our leaders to be safe.
Right.
Or my suggestion is go to another location. Don't have it at the U.S. Capitol, but that's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It might
Right.
not mean anything,
Mm-hmm.
but have it at a disclosed location
Mm-hmm.
out there in Delaware, Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
anywhere but here.
Mm-hmm. You don't think they gonna do the same thing?
Go.
If they go to, I mean, the message is the message.
But
They
I would
gonna
not
have to.
tell them until maybe hours later. That's just me, okay?
Yeah.
And I will show the audience a pre-recorded ceremony. It is what it is, you know?
Yeah, I was reading
I
something, they was
like-
like, please just come in on, look at it online.
Look at it
You know?
online, don't tell these people because they're angry.
Yeah,
And it's too much anger,
yeah.
and the FBI, the CIA agents are wrapping it up, and the U.S. Marshals are going door to door to go find them. Those are a lot of people, and it can't be done
Corey,
in
we need to go
5
ahead and
days'
go and
time.
just pull them in when they come. We need to go ahead and go with what we got. Yeah, I agree. You know, we gotta do something though, because the reality of them coming to town and doing what they did and expecting that folks are not still concerned. You be standing in line at the metro and have somebody that you don't know that's a part of all of that. So my biggest concern is to make sure that the repercussions that they bring forward will be strong enough to make them think twice. Because some of the rhetoric and some of the language
We can go back with this.
they
and we
hate,
can record
yes,
it. Okay.
that's fine. Some of the language and the rhetoric is just
So let's go
too
back to
heavy.
what she has
So
now.
guys, we're gonna just kind of wing it, and then when they come in, then I'll pivot. Are you counting us in?
Yes, I'll got you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we gotta do something.
3, 2, 1.
Hello, Facebook, palms up, we're back, and we are just about rounding up our last segment for the show, and one of the things we wanted to do, we're back with our two guests, and we've got a wonderful gentleman that's joined us. You guys know who that soldier is. That's Sal Chapman. What's happening, Chapman?
Evening, folks.
Thanks so much for dropping by the platform, guys. Just so you know, we have some wonderful guests and co-hosts that are also going to probably join us before we round out. We are getting the kinks worked out with bringing them in through the Zoom. But without any further ado, I wanted to touch on a couple of things while we're working on all of that. I was watching Fox 5, and one of the things that they notated is that we are experiencing currently in America 3,200 COVID-19 deaths a day. That's roughly 22,000 a week. And that's been the case for the last 2 weeks. So far, we've totaled over 375,000 COVID-19 deaths as a nation. Guys, CDC.gov is a wonderful source for information. The Centers for Disease Control Prevention, they're out here to help address any concerns that you may have. And boy, I know you got some concerns. U.S. vaccinations by the number, let me just give you an idea. people that have already received the first dose is 8,987,322. The total folks that have received both doses is 25,480,725. Now that's as of today, January the 11th. But Anthony Fauci, you guys, you know Dr. Fauci, you've been seeing his face prominent throughout this pandemic. He's the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. He says that we are way below where we want to be. Understand that money, distrust, and lack of communication on the federal government's part, they feel is what's caused it. Now, let's talk about it for a minute. They projected that there would be 20 million vaccinations done by the end of December. And then they projected another 20 to 25 million would take place in January. You see the disparity? And now you can probably identify with the reality of what we talked about earlier when we talked about with Monique, the fact that the healthcare workers, the way that they're rolling this out in the groups of folks that are, you know, that they feel are frontliners or folks that deserve it first. Looking at who's eligible currently, you got your seniors, your 75 and older, you got your first responders, you got your public safety officers, your teachers, your school staff, your college instructors, your child care workers, your grocery store workers, your transit workers, your homeless shelter workers and residents. Guys, they're rolling this out in the way that they anticipated that they would be much further along than what they are. So obviously we've hit a snag, guys. And so we're here to talk about the issues that are plaguing the community, and most importantly, the Black community. And with COVID-19 numbers rising so high, public safety has to be of concern, Chaplain. You know, when we hear all of what's going on with the vaccinations and the hesitations and the reality of what we need to be doing, what can you enlighten us a little bit and tell us where you are with everything, sir?
Well, I think the first thing that we're going to have to deal with is the fact that, notwithstanding our current president and the role that we know he played, I think the CDC and the task force underestimated who we are as an African American culture. I think if they were serious about this vaccine and its delivery to our particular culture, there would have been specific outreach, okay, starting with our clergy, starting with our community leaders, all right, with clear conversation about the ramifications of the vaccine and the transparency to allow our communities to specifically ask and challenge.
That's perfect. Now I know you brought some photos along with you today. Will you help us understand what those photos are representative of? And I trust that you guys will be able to see the photos on your screen.
Well, as you know, we had a critical incident at the Capitol. And what's unfortunate as it relates to this vaccine and spiking COVID transmissions, I mean, we in essence saw, okay, on national TV, a super spreader event. Yeah. All right? Yeah. What does that leave for the residents of the District of Columbia, if not the entire DMV? Absolutely. We know a lot of those American citizens don't live here. Okay, they travel from other states where the cases have been spiking. Okay, they traveled with a clear mindset and a directive that they weren't going to be responsible, okay, based on recognizing that the guidelines are in place to protect us from this virus. Yeah. So the fact that we had this event, okay, and the way we watched it roll out is just staggering. And so when we all deployed in support of the call for Capitol Hill Police, it was just mind-numbing to see the callousness, all right? And I want to be fair because as I did a roaming routine on the northwest side, and if we cue that photo B, okay. Yeah, that talks about, that's going to show what I saw from my unit 10 feet away later on in that night. But there were citizens walking around, okay, like it was a regular tourist day. Yeah. Okay. And I mean, we talk about the fact that we're born and bred in DC. I remember, you know, growing up, traveling from Congress Heights to the mall to volunteer And so it was nothing to see tourists from all across the country and if not the world come to the nation's capital,
Absolutely.
okay, to visit the museums and the monuments. But this day was inordinate. We're in the middle of a pandemic and people are walking around no masks, okay, as if it was a normal tourist day.
Yeah.
And not but 2 hours prior to, okay, the Capitol had been assaulted. And so I really had mixed emotions about the fact that I'm looking at people, okay, walking around so callous and so irresponsible and cavalier about the nature of the environment that we're in.
Well, let's talk about that. Mental health advocates, we know that, there's a lot going on in the capital city just because we're the capital city. And truth be told, that just because there's a lot going on here and people are bringing a lot of conversation here, doesn't mean that our local folk here are tapped in or tuned in. I can't even tell you, if you can imagine, how many folks or families that I would have talked, beyond a handful, that were so disconnected to what even took place down there. They were so disconnected and still are. And that is where, exactly, it's very unfortunate. And those are some of the conversations that we want to continue to bring forward. Thank you for that eloquent layout of what your, from a public safety standpoint, observations were. Hey, ladies, now that we know who you are and know that you're powerhouses, we know that your opinion matters as well. Talk to us about this vaccination. Have either of you been on, or are you on a list for vaccinations? Are you intending to be? And once you are, have you already made a decision of what that decision will be?
Well, the vaccination to me, is part of a system. And as African American, the system has not been treating us well, and they've not been trustworthy. They can say one thing and something else happen. So a lot of the families I work with are taking a back seat on taking a vaccine right now, and that can be unfortunate because, I want everyone to make an informed decision about what they want to do.
Absolutely.
And it's like my brother said here, we haven't had that information of African American to make that informed decision because we only can hear information by TV, and we cannot speak back to those individuals who is giving us information. So how can we learn to trust the information to make an informed decision, and it also impact on our mental health?
Hey, palms up. Palms up. How can we? Hey, Monique, and that's very eloquently put. Monique, will you chime in and help us understand? Where are you with this whole thing?
I believe that African Americans are afraid. We want a cure. We want this pandemic to be over, but taking a shot, we don't have the numbers. We don't have enough information, and a lot of African Americans have died. So the reality of it is, sure, we want the vaccine. You have a lot of people that believe in vaccine, but then you have people who are conspiracy theorists. They want the numbers. They want that literature. What blood type is it? Is it good for A? Negative for B?
Yeah. But and you made a good point. I want to share something with you. One of our colleagues, I'm not sure if he'll make it back on the set for the show, they're in the background trying to work it out, but one of the things, he got my attention. There was a gentleman that was on Facebook, and I apologize, I wasn't that familiar with him, but his messaging was so strong. He was talking about the reality, him being a bishop. I think he said something about being a chaplain for the Annapolis Police Department. And one of the things that he was struggling with being a leader is that he himself was challenged to understand taking the vaccine, being a frontline responder. And the truth of the matter is that he was being very sincere in that he just didn't know what he should do. And the truth of the matter is that he wanted us to know that he's stepping out on faith. He didn't want to feed into his fear. He wanted us to know that we should not rely on what we're reading on Facebook as a point of only reference. And one of the things he said that I thought was so just, it resonated. Regardless of what side of this you're on, we do all realize that we want to live, we don't want to die. We do also know the history, or we know parts of the history. We know enough to know that we're not comfortable and we don't trust the system. Let's just be real and put it out there. But the truth of the matter is, we don't want our lack of knowing to put us in an early grave. And one of the things that he was saying was that we're afraid. Like Monique says, we are all very much afraid. So those of us that are not going to take the vaccine, we've now got to dedicate ourselves to making certain that we are going to be the best social distancing, washing our hands, antibacterial ambassadors that there are. We're going to have the right mask. And he made a point, which I know Monique can second. If your mask doesn't have a number 95, you ain't stopping nothing. Let's just keep it 100. And he said being cute is not being safe. And so if we're going to really have this conversation from an African American standpoint, it is okay to be real with our emotions and our feelings and be transparent, but we also must hold ourselves accountable because our community is dying.
And that's an important aspect for us to consider, that as a culture, we have to begin to mature for this season, for
Absolutely.
our children and our grandchildren.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I feel like, Chaplain, we're in seasons. We're in seasons, and so I just feel like right now we've got to do a lot of, as you say, growing up. Hey guys, welcome our panel, our co-hosts coming in from the Zoom. I've got our wonderful, they made it, our overseer and our Real Talk. There they are. I'm not sure if they can hear us, but we can certainly hear them. We've got Overseer Ann with the Real Talk Kingdom Life Outreach. And then we've also got Mr. Kenneth Clark with Uncut Live, our unapologetically speaking advocate. Looks like they're in the background trying to work it out. I know that they wanted to chime in real time today to let you know their feelings on this understanding of the vaccinations. It's such a hot conversation. Who knew they were going to come to town and storm the Capitol? Who knew? We've got so much to talk about, guys, and the vaccinations at the forefront. You know anything about the bill in D.C. being passed? I want to give you the right language so that you can do your homework. Guys, we are living in some times. I think it's Bill B23. Let's see, I'm sorry, guys. I got all these notes, as you can imagine. This is our second show, and we are sailing along, but as you can imagine, there's some kinks in the system, and we're going to get them worked out and get everything taken care of. But B230171, Google B230171. It is a predatorial bill in the District of Columbia that would not only permit children that are 11 years and older to consent to vaccines on their own without their parental knowledge, but get this, the consent also will require insurance companies and vaccine providers and schools to conceal that very fact from the child's parents.
Yeah,
Where they do that at?
Yeah.
Where they do that at, guys? When we don't speak up, when we don't come out to the forefront, when we don't protect the kingdom, when we don't demand that they culturally understand our issues and our concerns, this is the kind of legislation that we start to see come forward.
You don't get to make decisions about
You
my
don't get to, and you don't get to teach my children to keep me out of the mix. What kind of values are our government putting before our families? And because we're broken and we're fractured and we're trying to figure this out, they're deciding for us, guys. Palms up?
Palms up.
It's not on our watch. The Healthy DC and Me Leadership Coalition is out here in these streets. Guys, we're going to be coming to you every week, and while we may have some kinks to work out, I want you to know that we some soldiers out here in these streets, and we are either of the city or around the city, and we don't like what we see. Gentrification is erasing our footprint, as you heard. Families are hungry, families are suffering. We've got a lot to do. And I need you guys to understand that wherever you stand on either side of the aisle regarding this vaccination process, you have a responsibility to yourself, your family, and your community to do the right thing. And whatever that decision is for you and your family, we don't want you to be depressed or have anxiety about it, but we also don't want you to be dead. So the reality is that we're talking about some big stuff here, some science. And if you're not a reader, and if you're not someone that understands, speak up, say something, join us. HealthyDCandMe.org. We've got intake that we take daily. You have the ability to request a Zoom if you need companionship. We've got wonderful clergy on board that are going to help you understand one-on-one circumstances if necessary from a clerical standpoint. Guys, we are all in this together. Palms up.
Palms up.
Whether you're going to get that vaccination or not, these numbers are growing. The statistics do not lie. And my Mother's Keeper and the Healthy DC and Me Coalition was very excited to be a part of welcoming Miss Monique Michelle Smith and Miss Gail Avon to our forefront, as well as our wonderful co-host who will be joining us weekly, Mr. Chaplain Tim J. Buffalo. Boy, did I do that? Did I screw that up? That's what happens when this thing keeps moving. But guys, before I move on to our closeout, I want to invite you guys. Do you have any final words on this subject matter? Because I know that this is something that is going to take longer than a conversation tonight. But is there any words of encouragement, education, or just any final remarks you'd like to leave with our audience as it relates to this COVID-19 pandemic and the reality that we've got legislation out there that our children have to be, protected from, and also the reality that we've got these vaccinations that we've got to reconcile. Because whether we like it or not, we've got to do something. So I'll start with you, Gail, and then we'll come on around. Is there anything that comes to mind that we haven't touched on that you'd like to be able to wrap up in today's session?
I would like to say that Black families need to be here. We heard from the chaplain about culture, and I heard from a grandmother who had 3 grandchildren in the hospital at the same time. We have to learn how to make some good decisions, and we have to learn how to operate safely in the community, because one of the hardest things I hear from young people is they don't want to be restricted. But we do have to learn that when we go out, we have to be informed, we have to be intelligent. We have to also look out for our loved ones so we can have culture and heritage around. The matriarch is the grandmother, the grandfather. If they go, then the life cycle starts over again. Make some informed decisions. I hope you stay safe and be around for 2021 and beyond.
That's right. That's awesome. I couldn't have said it better. Monique Michelle Smith, our DC Fire EMT, 23 years, and still out there front line. Is there anything you can help us understand as we begin to wrap up?
I think that initially when the coronavirus went around, they were saying a lot of workforce people had it, which is the middle class, which is very strong in Washington, D.C. So we do have to make some decisions. We still want to be in the land of the living.
Absolutely, amen.
So
palms up, hold on, that's a palms up moment.
be in the land
yes,
of the living.
yes.
So we have to know that we have to take precautionary measures, and we have to get the literature. You have internet right there at your fingertips. Use it.
That's a good point.
Use it. Get educated. A lot of people have their doctor's telephone number on speed dial. Call them up. They will give you the best advice.
Yes.
My advice is do not allow the symptoms to increase. A lot of people in this community, they wait too long. I'm waiting a week. I'm waiting till my check comes. I'm waiting until my ride comes. Go to the clinic, make an appointment with your doctor, or go get checked out. Don't wait around.
Absolutely.
Because that is the biggest problem in Washington, D.C. is a lot of people wait too long to call 911.
Okay, great. Hey, Chaplain, thank you, Monique, for that point. Will you round it out and help us to understand any final remarks that you can share with us? I see you brought the sword out there. You're not playing with it a little bit, are you?
Yes. Community, we're praying for you. We love you. We know you're hurting. We know your fears and your anxieties because we have them too. But stay strong and hold on to faith.
That's right. Hey guys, thank you so much. We're asking everybody out there if they would humble. Palms up. Just humble and see if in fact you can help someone else in the process of helping yourself. Our elderly out here, our vulnerable citizens, our unapologetically speaking advocate for the homeless, Mr. Kenneth Clark. I know that he's out there, he's concerned, and he was going to talk to us a little bit about his concerns for the homeless community. Guys, please stay tuned to the Palms Up platform. We intend to bring you the Eye on the Community weekly, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. And we don't know who's going to be in the studio, but we know it's going to be somebody that you're going to want to hear from. As a matter of fact, I believe that our next week's topic is Black democracy, the state of Black democracy. Guys, we've got to talk about these things. There are things going on in and around our community that we are just disconnected from, and it's important that we tune in. It's important that we come back to the table. As we just discussed, there's legislation for our 11-year-old babies. Who's ever heard of that? Hey guys, we're in a pandemic. COVID-19 has taken over 375,000 lives and counting. Get your family healthy. Sit down at the table. Let's have this conversation. Healthy DC and Me Leadership Coalition, we're here for you. Our website is healthydcandme.org. You can do an intake on our CD19 rescue page, and we will come running. We are soldiers out here. We don't want you to feel like you have to do it alone. We got our mental health advocate. We got our frontline workers, our safety, public safety chaplains, and mental health advocates are out here. Guys, we got a whole team of folks that are ready to help you through this. You do not have to do this alone. The Healthy DCME organization and the Palms Up want you to hear from you. If you'd like to be on our platform, if there are issues that you'd like to have talk about, if you'd like to be a sponsor, if you'd like to advertise on our platform, we'd love to be able to talk to you about that. Anything that you are concerned about in this community as you try to survive during this COVID-19, we want you to understand that you're not by yourself. We've got to be a community that comes back to the table so that the kingdom can be protected. Palms up. It's time to save some lives. Hey guys, I want to leave something with you this week and have you hold on to it. If I can look at my wonderful, wonderful notes, you'll be talking about me the rest of the week and all my good notes. I was reading through, as I often do, and I was looking for words of encouragement during this pandemic, something that I can leave with you. I want you to know something. If you're someone out there who can help, then I want you to palms up, put your hands up, and come lend a hand. If you're someone out there that needs help, then I want you to palms up, humble yourself, and reach out for help. www.healthydcme.org. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10 says, each one should use whatever gift he has received to serve others faithfully, administering God's grace in its various forms. Guys, I'm your girl. Tune in, plug in, and make a difference. Tell someone about us. And as always, please remember, palms up. Have you told someone you love them today? Think about it. Humble. Until next time. Bye-bye. I'm your girl. Thank you for tuning in. Well, Facebook, we got another week behind us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me come over and wave to all of my dedicated folks that stood in there. First and foremost, let me get some elbows. Palms up, palms up, palms up. Uh-oh, I got this mic on me. I hear someone calling me. Uh-oh, I just took it off. We did our temperature check. We don't have our mask on because we did our temperature checks and all of that. Hello, guys. How's it going, Facebook? Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to make sure we get the clean version posted on the link. God bless you all. And remember, palms up, healthydcandme.org. We would love your support. Send folks there for help. Tell us if there's something you'd like for us to be covering. I'm your girl. Thanks so much for tuning in. Palms up. See you next week. Bye-bye. Appreciate your support.